Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. We're stepping back into our fighter, our Nieuport 17 during World War I, as we're playing Western Front Ace by Compass Games. And I just realized this actually requires a prestigious 2, but oh well, we're not going to worry about that right now. So similar to the other Greg Smith designs, this time we're in a fighter during World War I, trying to see how we do in the early stages of air war. So without any further ado, we've got Elwyn Bowman all set to go. So we did his first sortie of the month. We went balloon busting in that one. So I've got all my rules and such ready to go here. So let's jump into our patrol. First thing we need to get a mission. So we'll go ahead and roll 2d6 for that, and we'll consult the Allied missions. Just grabbing the chart with the Allied missions over here. That is an 11, so 1916. We're going on a bomber escort going behind enemy lines. Bomber escort. Behind enemy lines. Okay, that should be fun. So we've got our mission, takeoff, move to takeoff box. So we'll get all of that and go to... Okay. Let me see if there's extra notes in here for how we handle a behind enemy lines mission and when we can actually turn around and head back for home. Let's see. When combat occurs, that's not completely what I'm after here. So, as we mentioned, we're on bombing escort. That's on escort duty. If an enemy two-seater is rolled, we have to ignore it. Okay. Pilots assigned to ground attack. Okay, this isn't completely... Alright, so yeah, two-seaters we have to ignore. That's the only thing to note. And... is there anything here about... I'm still looking for anything about escort. Oh, here we go. Escort 7.4.3. Okay, that's the only thing we explained. Once you have engaged an enemy fighter, escort requirements are lifted and all requirements have been met and all restrictions are lifted. So it looks like our job here is to escort the bombers. So we're in takeoff, which means we have to roll for an encounter. We're in friendly lines right now. So when do we shift over to no man's land? Okay. Alright, so let's see what our first mission here is in the encounter. What our encounter is. A 3 in friendly lines. That's a two-seater, which, remember, we have to ignore that because we're on escort detail. So once we roll a fighter, then all bets are off. So we exhaust a box of fuel, and we go into our next encounter box. So now that's probably no man's. That's either still friendly lines or no man's land. I want to figure out how we tell that we crossed that. Let's see, and of course it doesn't explain. Actually, maybe the example of play will tell me a little bit more about that. Let's see, starts as a British pilot. Rolls on A1B. Line patrol. Okay. So actually it's up here. So you got the hangar. We rolled for takeoff and landing. Now we're in friendly territory, so we're still on. So we're still in the ally. So we're still in our lines. That's a 10, which is no encounter. Then in no man's land, no man's land is a 4, which is also no encounter. So we should be down. We're down there on fuel. Then over enemy territory. And then we just had to get, I believe we just had to get to the enemy lines on this one. Yeah, so friendly territory, no encounter, no man's land, we rolled no encounter. Enemy lines. That's an 8 in enemy lines, no encounter. And at that point, let's see, or loiter in place. Does not occur, go to step 1. Okay, so now we want to turn back around since we made it over enemy territory. So now we're in no man's land again. No man's land with an 8 is a fighter, so now we actually engage the fighter. So now we go to card 3. So we've got fighter. And there should be a separate, here we go, 1918 encounter chart, British and French. Okay, so we have to roll for a German fighter. We're in 1916. That's a 3, so we've got a Fokker D3 after us. Which I need to go into the pile of fighters to fish that out. So hold on while I fish out that fighter. Fokker D3, here we go. That was relatively easy. Alright, so there's our fighter. Alright, roll for starting orientation on chart B1. Now, okay, here we go. We got to fish up B1. We'll get the... right, I think the location is... I think we'll use that instead. So we've got the player, and I'll get the Fokker D3 out once I find fighters in here. Let's see. That's an Albatross D3. That's not what I want. Fokker D1. I'm definitely going to reorganize these counters by the country. It was very much a case of dump them all in here and figure it out later. But now I'm figuring out, okay, if I think I'm going to be doing more with this game, I want to do more with organizing it at this point. So Fokker D7, Fokker... Wait. 2 Fokker D7s. I'm looking for a... here we go. Fokker D3. Finally found it. So let's see what orientation we start at on chart B1. And I just found I lost my pen. Orientation. That's a 6, so we are head on to start the fight. Okay, so that's our orientation, conduct combat. So that's where we're going next, is we're going into combat. So coming over to 7.0. Okay. Yep, we've already set up the orientation. So now we are, as I mentioned, we're both head on. So that's a neutral position. Yep, and we flip okay, so how do we determine, all right, we are going to shoot with our forward weapon. We've got 2 firepower on that. So orientation, head on. How did I note this? Okay. So it looks like we're just shooting both of them. Okay, we may also choose not to fire and go defensive immediately. Okay, okay, so this is the fighter's attack, which means okay, so the fighter always shoots first. So German fighter. So we'll flip a card from the combat deck to see how many hits we get hit with here. And it has, gonna flip the top light on. So the Fokker's got 5 power, yikes, that could be problematic. 5 power is 5 hits, yuck. So now we've got to roll for total the firepower from all your forward weapons. Oh, this is a card from the enemy fighter. So we actually dealt 4 hits. So let's see what we get for hits. We need the fighter damage chart next. And we're rolling on the fighter damage chart for the enemy, APA style. Black is the 10s, white is the 1s. That's a 22, which is a canvas hit. So now we need should be a separate damage marker in here. Oh yeah, damage marker, here we are. Alright, so we'll get a damage marker for the canvas, which is apparently looks like that's going to be a no-hit here, because this plane apparently doesn't have canvas. So it's probably just a scratch, so probably just a walk it off. A 56, that's a rear guns hit. So we'll put rear guns on which somehow they don't have those either on this. So that's another no damage. Hit as canvas is always treated as minor damage. Okay. 14, that's another canvas hit. And our last hit is a 46, which is forward weapons. So finally a hit that's actually of consequence. So that knocks out, so in subsequent rounds that'll knock out their forward weapons and they'll probably break off. Here we go. So so for the first round of combat, we do still flip over a card for them. And at 5 firepower, they're doing 4 hits as well. One, two, three, 4. So we'll roll up for the German fighter. That's a 52. That's a canvas hit for us. So we'll laugh that off. Oop. Okay, let's bring here's the current location. Oh, I see what happened. This was happening over No Man's Land on the way back. Okay, I lost it for a second there. 63, that was another canvas hit. $61, that's a tail hit. That could be a problem. Tail hit. And 15 is landing gear. Yikes. That's going to make it harder for us to put this down on the ground. So that's a -1 on the landing roll. Now the question is, do they break off? And I imagine that any changes in orientation. Player will roll 2 dice for initiative. Would they break off? Logically speaking, if my forward guns got taken out, I would probably be breaking off from the fire. Or I would probably be breaking off in combat here. So I'm just trying to determine if... yeah, I'm going to say based on logic, because the forward weapons got knocked out, the German's going to break off. Because that just makes too much sense to me, and I feel like that's the way they would probably have handled it, being like, oh, our forward weapons are out? Off we go. Alright, so we are over no man's land right now. Using another fuel for friendly territory. And I don't have the encounter in my hand. Here we are. So back over friendly lines. That's an 11, which is actually a 2-seater this time. Is there a separate chart? Yep, there's a separate chart for a 2-seater. So we'll see what we've got coming at us this time. That's a 5, which is a Rumpler C4. We'll go fishing for that, as that's a German fighter as well. Let's see, where are you? Rumpler C4, there we are. I'll get the mat out for that so we can track. Of course it's not on the back of that because that would make a little too much sense. Let's see, 2-seater. Okay. Yeah. Alright. Let me see if there's anything special about engaging a 2-seater. 3.2. Two-seater matter used to resolve combat against... Okay, so it looks like we need this 2-seater mat. Okay. And Rumpler C4. Okay, so now we need the chit for that because now we've got to roll for orientation once again. We've got our starting orientation right here. Seven is once again we're head on. So I'll pull a card for our first shot here in a minute. So our first card with 2 firepower is 2 hits. Respectable, but not bad. So rolling for our... Is there a separate damage chart on the... I'm wondering if there's a separate damage chart for the 2-seaters, and it does not look like there is. So we presumably are just going to use the same fighter damage chart that we are using already. Alright, 34 is a canvas hit, which is unfortunate. And our other hit... 56. That's a rear guns hit. 56 is 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 a rear guns So a rear guns hit for them. Okay. And I don't see any kind of firepower on here, which is a little annoying, but let's see if there's a way I can figure out how much firepower is supposed to be on that Rumpler. I don't imagine it's going to be a plain selectable, so we're probably not going to find it there. Does not seem likely. Nope. Albatross D3. Nope, I don't think we're going to find it in there. So let's see if there's something in the manual that will tell me more about that. There's probably combat against a two-seater. Now that our... Let's see, combat. Okay. And of course there's nothing for... Have been grouped, use their speed and agility. Firepower for their rear guns is also listed. So firepower for rear guns... Where is it listed? Because the rulebook is just saying have been grouped on chart B10, which I've got that. Unless it's on the other side, maybe? No, that's miscellaneous rolls. Speed, rear guns. It's not telling me what the firepower is on these things unless there's another chart for that. The firepowers. Player's rear gun does track ammunition, but that's not telling me what I want. That's not telling me what the firepower is on here. So we're going to just go with... We're just going to go with 2 firepower on the rear guns just to keep it moving. Although they probably wouldn't be able to hit us if we're head on anyway. Because they're facing... well, they probably would actually, so... Enemy fire, we'll go with... Like I said, we'll go with 2 firepower on that. So here we'll find that we're taking 2 hits. We're going to be trying to put this bird down momentarily anyway, so let's see what kind of hits we get. $23. Uh-oh, that's an engine hit. That could be problematic. So an engine hit. And we'll roll for our other hit. $61 is a tail hit. Yikes. So that plane really got lucky. And tail, right, had 2. That's the second hit on that. Actually, I believe we go 3 there and then we move down. So yeah. And then since the firepower has not been knocked out, we go for another pass. And I should have expended an ammo from that. So we will expend another ammo. So our fighter passed 2, and we'll flip over another card for this. Actually, we first have to roll for initiative. And I've got to refresh my memory on... Oh yes, roll 2 dice for initiative. So we'll roll black for the Germans, white for us. And based on the difference, okay, we're going to make a lot of improvements here. So we are improving position, And we're going to get on their tail. That is very fortunate. So, card for the fighter. Okay, so we're going to flip over another. So I'm just going to make a note here. I'll be drawing another card for our fire. +5, improved position. So we're tailing him, and we'll be firing on him. So first up with 2 firepower. That's another 4 hits. That could be problematic. But then we need to flip over another card to see what he's able to do as far as going defensive goes. Oh, I think we flip over a card for defensive fire. That's probably what that is. Alright, so he's going defensive, which means we use the defense section. And a Chandelle. Jeez. I would void all damage and improve by 1 position, by 2 if a rotary engine, and fortunately for us, the Rumpler is not a rotary engine, so we end up crossing his T at this point. Yikes, that kind of went sideways on us. Void all, imp position by 1. Alright, so another initiative roll. Alright, so he's going to improve 1 position, which means we're back to being head-on. Alright, so head-on, initiative roll. So our fighter on pass 3, and we'll be expending our last round of ammunition after this. So, we deal another 4 hits. And since he's going to be head-on, he'll be attacking us as well, but first we roll for damage. That's a 53. That's a starboard strut hit. Starboard strut. $25. That's an engine hit. Right. Engine hit right there. 55 is a canvas hit, so nothing doing there. And 33, a port strut. So we managed to scatter the fire all around. And then for the 2-seater, now that I think we're using supposed to use the defensive fire for that, they're doing 5 hits. Yikes. Actually, let me see if there's a section in here on the defensive fire. Maybe something that explains the combat card. Here we go. So 6. Let's see, rear gunner, defensive fire. Okay. Actually, did we knock out the rear guns? I thought we did. Yeah, we did knock out the rear guns, actually. So, yeah. So yeah, the rear guns are out, which means they probably would have broken off at some point anyway, so we actually dodged that. But now we have to try to land this thing, now that we're on our last fuel. We are over base, but we're looking at a +1 to our landing roll. Excuse me. So our landing roll, first we've got to roll for weather. Excuse me. That's a 3, so good weather. And the landing roll, which this one's a +1, and we have a 2d6 that we're looking at. We actually have, what do we have for modifiers? We do have the landing skill, but I think the engine getting knocked out means we can't use that, right? Oh no, ACM's what we can't use. Okay, so the engine, the engine wasn't knocked out, but we do have a +1 on the landing roll, which is canceled out by the -1 on the landing skill, so this is just a straight roll. That is an 8, so we have a good landing. And not much of consequence happened in that mission, so there shouldn't be much in post-combat that we have to worry about. Let's see. So we were on escort duty. We engaged a fighter, finally. Meets its damage threshold. Okay, that's not what I'm explaining there. Post-combat, repairs are always assumed. Okay, aircraft loss. It's possible, even if you didn't inflict enough damage. So on a 10... or higher. So we did have the... Actually, we will not make it back. So on a roll of 10 or higher. So actually we have to roll for both the... We have to roll for both the Fokker that we encountered and the two-seater that we just encountered. So we'll roll the D10 twice for that. The Fokker first. 9, but we didn't have enough damage on there. The engine is damaged or any system that was one short. Okay, so we didn't have any roll there. Then for the two-seater, 7, so neither one of them, so both of them made it. So nothing, no problem with that. Which means in our post, I'm just looking here at our post-combat, there we are. Okay, that's what I was going through. No emergency landing. Weather effects. Looks like we are all sorted out there. So we landed. Gain experience. Check for awards and promotions, but I don't think we have any kind of awards and promotions that we're worried about here. I don't think there are any promotions that we're worried about here. First promotion is made after the 3rd month of service. Okay? So, no. Random events. Nope. Nothing else happened there. So that will do it for this playthrough of Western Front Ace. Still, I am actually really enjoying this game. I'm definitely getting into telling the story of our British pilot, as Elwyn has now had his 2nd successful sortie for the month. We need to have 2 more sorties on the month, despite not managing to shoot anything down. So I definitely want to do more with this game on the channel. I'm going to sort out the plane tokens by the country, so it's a little bit so it's a lot easier to find what I need. But let's go ahead and wrap this video up. As far as what's scheduled on the channel goes, Saturday morning, Mystical Munchies will conclude Out of the World of Warcraft New Flavors of Azeroth cookbook as we make the dessert, Bolara's Nutter Bar. Sunday morning, we're going golfing as we play Appa Golf by Appa Games. Monday, we're going to have Pinot with Phoenix for June 2025, and there'll be a few other game videos coming during the weekend, but I'm going to hold those close to the vest. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.